What's going on, guys? It's Hi with the Upper Left USA, and because I reviewed quite a few different film cameras on this channel, today I want to take some time to show you the ones that I've actually still kept around and are still in my personal collection. I'll say a few things about these cameras and hopefully help you out in case you're looking for a new camera for yourself. For this video, I'll show you my cameras in the order that I purchased them in, so let's start from the very beginning with my very first film camera, the Nikon F3. When I first started shooting film, the F3 was perhaps the most hyped film camera on the market. Pretty much every film YouTuber made a video on it saying how robust it is, how it just provides you with all the functions that you need. I kind of bought into this because, as you can see, I purchased the camera. Because it got so much praise and publicity, I thought that it would be a good place to start my film journey. Years later, this camera still gets a lot of attention. It's really achieved the level of being a cult classic. Even so, pricing for this camera has not risen too much from when I first purchased it. I believe I got this F3 for around $200 to $250, and this camera was listed as being nearly perfect. At the time of this video, I went on eBay and saw functional F3s starting at around $100. That is kind of surprising because, like I said, this camera is very popular, but I assume that a part of that is because of the availability of this camera. The F3 has the longest production period of any camera in Nikon history. They were still being produced up to 2001, and you can still very easily find a brand new one today. There's quite a few of these around, so if you're interested in picking one up, you really should have no problem finding one. The next three cameras were bought in succession, and one purchase kind of inspired the other. These three cameras, in a way, document my fascination with the autofocus film camera era. My first autofocus film camera was the Nikon N2020. This particular N2020 being shown is not my first, but actually my third. The first time that I bought this camera, the listing was actually for two N2020 and two lenses. I liked the N2020 so much that I decided to get rid of the two used one and buy a brand new one because I knew that this was a camera that I wanted in my collection. So I like the N2020, but there are some very apparent flaws with it in comparison to more modern cameras. The N2020 was Nikon's first popular autofocus camera, and this is where they really started to push the autofocus technology. The autofocus was great for the time, but very slow and inaccurate compared to today's offerings. So I wanted a film camera with some better autofocus. For my research, the F100 offered what I wanted. My options were the F100, F5, or F6. The F5 is a pretty massive camera that required a bunch of batteries to operate, so I wasn't really interested in that. The F6 was what I really wanted because it was still being produced and is arguably the most technologically advanced film camera in the market. But a new one cost around $2,500. That was not the type of money that I wanted to blow on this type of camera at the time. So I went with the F100, small enough for me to not mind carrying around, but still offer a good autofocus system and at a good price. I purchased this one like new for around $150, and you can still find functional F100s for around that price. Lastly, the Nikon N90S. This is the most recent purchase of the three, but in terms of technology and age, it sits in between the N2020 and the F100. I purchased this camera simply because I found a new one for a good price. After using it, it's actually a really good camera that I enjoy a lot and don't really plan to get rid of. Next is my Leica M6 Dragon 2000. This is my most treasured film camera and is really the only one that I've been using lately. This is probably because I'm trying to put some wear on this black paint finish. If you didn't know, on black paint Leicas, the black paint finish actually wears off with use, and what you're left with is a distressed patina look that's unique to the user. I typically like to keep my things with as little wear as possible, but this camera is completely different. I can't wait till the paint actually starts to wear off. This is my first black paint Leica, so I have no idea when that will actually happen. Like I said, this is pretty much the only camera that I've been using lately, and it still looks brand new for the most part aside from the fingerprints that picks up on the finish. Lastly, we have my collection of Nikon's underwater film cameras. These are waterproof film cameras that were widely used for underwater photography, surf photography, and pretty much anything near or on the water. If you are looking for a waterproof film camera, the Nikon's line is what I would highly recommend you begin your search with. As you can see, I own the Nikon's 2 and two Nikon's 5s. The Nikon's line offers a few different cameras, and there are essentially 3 different generations of cameras. The first, which includes the Nikon's 1, 2, and 3, are completely mechanical cameras with no electronics. The second generation includes the Nikon's 4 and 5, which features through-the-lens light metering and automatic exposure. And there was the third generation, which essentially is the Nikon's RS. The RS is more refined and also offers autofocus. I personally like the Nikon's 5 the most. Of Generation 1 and 2, it offers the best features and ergonomics in my opinion. I would like to own the Nikon RS, but it costs significantly more. All of my Nikon cameras were actually purchased from OfferUp, and I got such a good deal on all of them. The first one that I purchased was the Nikon S5, and I actually got that for $20 with the lens. The second time around, I purchased another Nikon S5 for $60, and the seller actually threw in the Nikon S2 for free. Prices for these cameras range based on condition, but you will likely never buy any of these cameras in a similar condition for the price that I picked them up for. I mean, the second Nikon S5 that I purchased was essentially new old stock. It came with a box and lens and looks impeccable. I'm really happy with my purchases of these cameras and would highly recommend you look at your local listings in case something were to pop up, because just look at me, I got lucky twice. So the cameras covered in this video span quite a wide spectrum, from fully manual cameras to fully automatic cameras to underwater cameras. There is a lot to choose from. Now this video is not necessarily meant to be a flat out straight recommendation video saying that you should buy this camera or this camera, because some of these cameras really do not compare to each other at all. Even though some of these cameras are still in my personal collection, I would personally say that some of them are a nightmare to shoot with because they just overcomplicate things, or at least they undercomplicate things because they don't have the features that I want. In consideration, the cameras that I keep in my personal collection are not necessarily the best cameras in the world. I have chosen these cameras and I have chosen to keep them just because I have a personal connection with them. I like the way they feel in my hand and just the overall user experience that I get from these cameras. If you were to ask me if I would recommend to you one of these cameras that I have shown, I would say that absolutely yes, but you just kind of have to know what you are looking for. First things first, film cameras essentially all do the same thing. It's not like digital where you can have one camera sensor giving you drastically different results from another camera sensor. Film camera bodies are essentially just vessels for you to hold the film, which gives you the ultimate picture quality. That's what determines the picture quality along with the lens that you attach to the body, not necessarily the camera body itself. With that in mind, if you are looking for some advice to help you determine your next film camera, I would highly recommend you to just buy one within your budget and one that has all the features that you are looking for. Again, all of the cameras that I have shown in this video comes with high recommendations from myself, but that doesn't mean that they'll work out for you. The difficult thing about buying a film camera is that most of them are used. The sellers won't necessarily allow you to return them, so you can't really just test them out for yourself. If I were to give you a straight flat out recommendation and you just need a film camera of any kind, I would say to go with the Nikon F3, my first film camera that I started out with. I say this because most people who want to shoot film generally want the entire film experience. They want to manually focus and manually feel all the buttons and knobs on the camera themselves. They don't want an automated experience like they would get with digital. The Nikon F3 truly embraces the film experience in my opinion. Not only that, but it was the top of the line film camera during its time, and it was what all the pros use, so you can expect to be able to get some good results with it. If you want a more digital experience but also want to shoot film, and by this I mean you want a little bit more automation, whether it be advanced film rewind, auto exposures, and stuff like that, I would recommend you to go with the Nikon F100 out of the cameras that I've shown. Like I said, there are cameras that offer better performance, but in terms of bang for the buck, the Nikon F100 is really hard to beat. If you are looking for a waterproof film camera, for me, the Nikon S5 is the clear winner, as that is probably the best buying decision that I've made. In comparison to the Nikon S2, the Nikon S5 offers more features, but in a better, more ergonomic package. It's more fun and easier to use, as the Nikon S2 is more of a camera that I like to have, not a camera that I actually like to use, because it's not the most functional in my opinion. And of course, in my collection, I've shown you that I own a Leica M6. The Leica M6 falls into the category of rangefinder cameras, and there are a lot of other manufacturers who make rangefinder cameras, but in honesty, when people want one, they usually want a Leica. Now, recommending a Leica is a little bit hard to do because people have an affinity towards certain models. For me, that is the Leica M6, as I find that it offers the best features in comparison to price, even though the price is going to be much higher than some other film cameras that don't have that Leica moniker. And those are the cameras of my current film camera collection. If you're interested in learning more about these cameras, definitely check out my channel, as I've already made reviews on these cameras. I hope you've enjoyed this video and it has helped you out. If it did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, share this video, comment down below with any questions that you may have. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you guys next time.